Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another talk within the Nine-Sided Circle, which we do every Sunday. And I'm one of your hosts for our talk, Nor Kyle, and my other host is...
Over here, I'm Mushtaq Ali, the other host.
Yeah, so thank you for joining us, everyone who's here with us live and everyone who's going to be watching later on the YouTube video. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, please feel free to comment with feedback or your thoughts on whatever we discuss this evening. Give us some thumbs up, thumbs down. Subscribe if you're really into what we do. We always put a video out at least once per week, and we have programming going on elsewhere. So if you'd like to subscribe to our newsletter even to find out about those things, or just to our mailing list, really, because everything we send out goes through our mailing list.
Yeah, if you're on our mailing list, you get everything, which is usually once a week.
Yep.
Not very big.
Monthly newsletter, yeah.
And we promise that we will never, never, ever sell your address to anybody, even if they offer us thousands and thousands of dollars for it. We won't do it, ever. It's going to happen.
Apparently there's some feedback going on. All right, well, I will wrap up my part of this. We're going to be talking about embodiment, the triad of embodiment today. So Mushtaq, would you like to get started?
I would like to get started. There's some feedback going on. That's not feedback. That is mariachi music from next door. Yeah, no, they're partying down over there. Fortunately, they play good mariachi music. So, and I happen to like mariachi music. So, I'm sitting here, and if I'm starting to do this, it means I'm really getting into the tunes. So anyway, as Kyle was saying, yes, do all of the things. Do the things with YouTube. And somebody subscribed to us last week, so we did put up a special video, which was a gift to everybody and a thank you for our actually a couple, 3 people subscribed, which is better. We're sneaking up on 200 subscriptions, which I know for some of these channels you have thousands of subscriptions, but you know, we have a very small channel, so 200 is a great goal for us. And so for this week, if somebody subscribes, they get to suggest topics. Anybody who subscribes will get to suggest a topic, and we will put all the topics in a hat and pick one, and that will be one of our talks. How's that for a deal? All right, so we're going to be talking about, so last week we talked about embodiment and how important that is in a general sense. So this week we're going to talk about what I call the triad of embodiment. And some people listening will recognize the term, the terms that we use of breath, movement, structure, which I got the term from Scott Sonnen. Scott won't mind me using this because he's an old friend and I give him credit for it and all of that. He didn't invent the terms, he just described them in English better than anybody else. And so I like them for this. And the way to understand this is as a triangle. So, you know, you got your triangle here. Up here you have breath. Over here you have movement. Over here you have structure. And we will get into each of those tonight, what they mean, how they work together. And when you have your breath, your movement, and your structure in harmony with each other, everybody's waving at everybody because somebody just came in. If you're on YouTube, you don't get to see the gallery right now because we have it on speaker view, but people keep dropping in late as usual, but we don't care because we're happy to see them. No guilt, a little bit of guilt. So I don't know if you, wherever you're listening from, when you were a little kid in school, if you were me when I was a little kid in school, the fire marshal would come in, or at least the fireman, which was always exciting because they brought their truck and they usually wore their gear and all this kind of stuff, even though it was often hot and miserable. And they would teach us about fires and how fires start. And they had this thing called the fire triangle. And the idea was a fire needs three things to exist. It needs heat, fuel, and oxygen. Without one of those, if one of those three things is taken away, you don't have a fire. Each one is as important as the other. You can't say we start with this, then we have that. And this triangle is a lot like that. Breath, movement, and structures. You take away one of these, you don't get embodiment. You have to have all three working in harmony with each other to have this thing that we're calling embodiment, even though we don't like the term embodiment. It's just what we have, and we're Noor and I earlier today were trying to think of a better term for it, and maybe somebody smarter than us can come up with a better term for it. But to be embodied means that you are in your breath. It means your movement is in harmony with your breath, and it means your structure supports your breath and your movement. Right? You can collapse down like this and maybe, get a little movement, a little twitchy, but this is not the way. The way is to have your structure in proper alignment so it supports you. So a lot of the exercises that we do, and this is going to be the practicum from last week's theory. A lot of the exercises that we teach are designed to create this harmony between these three aspects of being embodied. So when you think about the basic breath, we teach the basic breath, right? The exhale, pause, inhale. To do this right, you have to have a decent structure. And your movement, though small, is, in your belly. Your entire core learns to move. And if you slump down like this, you can't do it, right? Everybody slump down. Let your head hang forward. Let your back bend. Just hurts just being like this. Come on, Zainab, you can do it. Yeah, so you're just down like this. Now try and do the proper breathing. It's hard, ain't it? Now, come back up. Stretch your neck a little bit. Let your head move upward from here. Push up. Get your spine in alignment. Make sure that your pelvis is neither arced back nor forward. It's in that perfect neutral position for it. Now try the same breath. Feels a lot different, doesn't it? Does it not feel different for somebody? Okay, good. So this is an example of how powerful structure can be. When your structure is in alignment, you get to transmit energy. Now, when I say transmit energy, I'm not talking about anything woo-woo. I mean energy in the sense of the ability to do work. That's what energy is. Energy is the ability to do work. So, a couple days ago, I helped my landlord move some really, really heavy cabinetry. And the first thing that we did before we began to move this thing was to make sure that our structure was in perfect alignment so that we didn't wreck our backs. Some days it works better than others, but so again, you can experiment with this. You can just push something. Go ahead and let yourself slump down, you know, roll your shoulders forward, cave in your chest, let your head hang forward like this, and try pushing something. Then bring it up. Get your spine in alignment, get your pelvic girdle in alignment, and push with your structure correct, and notice the difference. This is not rocket science. You can test this just with the instrument that you were born with. Now, that's structure. Breath, we've talked about. It seems some people have threatened, if you talk about breath again, we're never going to listen to you, because they're tired of hearing me talk about it. So we understand that breath is important, but realize that breath and structure work together. So this is something everybody learns in martial arts. If you want to generate power, you exhale on extension, right? So everybody do this. Hold a hand up like this. Now, I want you to just let your hand drop. Then bring it up. Then let it drop. Bring it up. Now, exhale. Follow it down. Inhale. Exhale down. Inhale up. Check your structure. Make sure that you're not doing this. Now, let's try exhale out this way. Inhale back. Exhale. Inhale. Now do it with, hold your breath and do it. Take a big breath in. Hold it. Now breathe with it again. Exhale. Inhale. Does that feel different to you? Can you detect a difference between those two states? The state of really taking a huge breath in and holding it versus a state of letting your breath and your movement flow together?
What are you feeling when you do that, Nancy?
The exhale out, damn, which is it? But anyway, holding my breath feels really nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fair.
That's how it feels to me too. It's uncomfortable.
How about you,
Shruti,
Zainab?
what do you think? You know about these things.
Well, Sheree has, Zainab has herself unmuted, so I wanted to check with her.
Okay. Which one of you? Zainab, say something.
More like a feather. There's no structure connected to the movement.
Yep, you easily break that structure when you hold your breath.
But with exhaling and pushing, I could instantly feel the other hand, and then feels like you're pushing something away as well.
Yeah. Now, when you pick up your carpets, and for people who don't know, really good carpets weigh a lot. They're very heavy. How do you manage that without hurting yourself?
Structure is first. if it's really heavy, then a little bit breath practice before that, that actually helps a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I hear from many people that it is impressive how much carpet you can move all by yourself.
Yeah, I found that being like there's certain amount of energy you feel you have for the muscle movement. But then as I do a little bit breath practice before that, it exponentially just increases in the ability to move.
Yep. So what do you think, Cherie?
Having witnessed Zainab carry this enormous rug that I acquired from her on Saturday, yes, she's very strong and she used her whole body. So when anybody is actually incorporating the whole triangle, they're actually not using one part of the body, but the whole body. So if doing that practice of using the hand, when I'm massaging, if you want stamina to massage for an hour in your repetition work, you have to have everything relaxed, but the whole movement is coming from the feet up. So for economy of movement, when we were just doing this with a hold of the breath, was that you had to employ more musculature in one part of your body versus using the whole body. That's what I said. I want to use my whole body to go into something. And that's actually given me a more energy efficient configuration. So I'm not exhausted when I finish doing a massage. I can just keep going. It's a rhythm, it's a flow. And you actually get into feeling that the breath, this is from Scott as well. Scott Sonnen said, he taught, let the movement breathe you.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the whole body thing. So there's a couple of ways to look at the body. One is as if it were a pile of bricks stacked up, right? Your bones stack up together and, you know, muscle hangs off of them and everything. And it's kind of like a pile of bricks. And if you do that, then you can create a pretty rigid structure. But there's another way to look at the body. And that's using what Buckminster Fuller called tensegrity. And a very, very smart guy started looking into biotensegrity and started modeling the body as a tensegrity structure. So in this model, you look at the bones as if they were compression members. Rigid compression struts, and the muscles and tendons as if they were tension members. And if you can look at the body this way, it's an interesting flip in observation, because when you do this, you realize that that's exactly what it is. The muscles and tendons and ligaments are balancing these rigid tension members in this incredibly complex structure. And if you stop looking at the muscles and tendons as separate objects and you look at them as one fascial unit moving through the body, connecting everything up, which it is, we find out, then it begins to make sense that if you use your body together as one tensegrity unit, it operates differently, and force is equally distributed through every member of the tensegrity unit. That's the big difference between, you can go online and look up tensegrity structures, and you'll find these things with rigid struts and connected by strings. And if you, with a pile of bricks, if you push on the pile of bricks, the pressure doesn't move anything, right? You just get pressure on the pile of bricks. You get enough pressure, the bricks explode. With a tensegrity structure, you push on it, and the entire structure absorbs the pressure and distributes it through the entire structure. I'm pretty sure that this is the way your body is supposed to work. And this is the structure part of the breath movement structure, is this idea of biotensegrity, of carrying your body in such a way that any pressure here is distributed through the entire body. Martial arts is full of tricks to impress the uninitiated. And one of the tricks that we do is the "you can't push me over" trick. And it is a trick. But what you do is you align your structure in such a way that if a person pushes you here, what they're doing is the force is going through your shoulders, down your spine, through your legs, and into the ground. So instead of pushing you backwards like they think they're doing, they are literally pushing you into the earth. And it becomes very, very hard to move you. It doesn't have a lot of martial efficacy, but it impresses the rubes. And there's a bunch of tricks like that, the unbendable arm, you know, all of this kind of stuff. It's just making sure that your structure is aligned in such a way that it transfers the energy through the entire system rather than getting stuck somewhere. The proper efficacy in this is if I clash with somebody and move into a grapple, if I can get them to be rigid, I can throw them. If they go all tensegrity on me, it is very, very difficult to throw them because there's no place for me to anchor my force in them. So I want them to decide that they're a pile of bricks and not a tensegrity structure if I'm trying to get them off their feet. And there's some great examples of videos of this. There's this, oh God, what is his name? I forget his name, but I'll find the video and put it up. It's a one of Jigoro Kano's 10th Dan black belts back in the early 60s when he was in his 70s. Guy weighs probably 135 pounds soaking wet. And he gets all of these big military guys, you know, from America who are training at the Kodokan to try and throw him. You know, he actually does free sparring with them. He does randori with them. And you'd think, oh my God, they're picking him up and they're throwing him, except that he just spins around and lands on his feet and reverses the throw over and over again. And you can tell that they are not dummying for him. It's fairly amazing to watch. I'll see if I can find that video, and if I can, I'll put a link to it down there. If I can't, then somebody else will find it for me. I have faith in you guys. But so is this making sense so far?
Yes. What about the elastic recoil of the movement that you've just asked us to do, having that sense of the body wanting to return? So
Yes.
that's part of the fascial system of being a contractile substance that, like a bellows, it's like out and in, out
Yes.
and in. And so those movements, that's why it's efficient. I really like that.
Yes, and this is one of the big secrets to internal martial arts. I mean, people think that internal martial arts is about some mysterious energy that you learn to channel in your body. Mostly it's not. It's to learn exactly this, to use your tendons as well as your muscles. If you look at good Tai Chi or good Bagua or good Xing Yi, which are the three major internal schools, what you see is these coiling actions that allow you to load your tendons with energy. And tendons are like rubber bands. They don't contract, but they will stretch like a rubber band, and then they'll snap back together. So you can use a little bit of muscle to load a tendon and then release it. And this is where you see real Fa Jing. Fa Jing is this kind of striking that is incredibly abrasive and transmits a lot of energy with very little force. And people fake it all the time when they're doing like Tai Chi. They'll fake the fudging and they'll throw a punch, and the punch will go and vibrate at the end. But if you do it correctly, that little vibration happens the same way that you release a rubber band. You know, it contracts and you get a little bounce, 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 bounce. And the thing is, tendon does not burn calories. Tendon does not use water the way a muscle cell does. So your fascia, your ligaments, and your tendons need to work with your body in such a way that they enhance the contractions. And we're going to see this for any of you who are doing the Bagua class. When you really start getting the proper way to do the Bagua walks, and there's 2 of them. We're working on the one we call the natural step. You will find that you naturally will walk faster. It's a little freaky because what is propelling you forward is about 40% muscle and 60% tendon. And the tendon release happens very quickly. You know, you don't get, you know, I can do a slow muscle contraction in my hand and raise my hand up, right? But if I load my tendon and I let it go, it's just, you know, here's the hand, I'm pushing this back, and I just let it go. And there's that snap is the tendons contracting. And that happens all at once. And you can learn to do that with every tendon in your body, including the Achilles tendon, which is the single biggest tendon in your body. And that stores up huge amounts of energy for walking and running. And again, this goes back to structure and movement. When your structure is correct, your movement becomes much more fluid. And when you work your breath in with the 2, what you get is, that's like a key to, here, welcome to having a body. Welcome to being a body. This whole sense of the breath and the structure and the movement are all working in harmony with each other. And it creates something that you don't get otherwise. If you treat yourself as a pile of bricks, you never experience this. So, breath, movement, structure. Thoughts, questions? Don't make me repeat myself. I will ramble on for the next 20 minutes.
I do have a question about the breath and the arm movement, which is, it seems like, yes, it should be coordinated, but I get one good effect from inhaling as I go out and another good effect from exhaling as I go out.
Sure. You know, you notice that when I had you raise your hand, I had you inhale, right? When I had you pushing out, I had you exhale. Same thing, that's both extensions away from the body. Now, there is another level of this. And that's where your body breathes you as you move. This is the highest level of breath movement structure. So if I am doing Tai Chi, right? My Tai Chi instructor said to me years ago, if you are doing good Tai Chi, you will never breathe for the entirety of the form. And I didn't understand that for the longest time because I was young and stupid. Yeah, that should be actually just one word, not three. Young and stupid. But what I came to realize after some years of practice was that what he was saying is that the movements of the form will breathe you as opposed to you having to breathe. So you get this natural extensions, natural inhalations. You know, when your body opens, the air comes in. When your body compresses, the air goes out. This is the highest level of breath movement structure. And people who do this, they barely look human when they're doing it. They look more like maybe cats is the only thing I can think of. They have that flowing movement to them, except that they aren't on four legs. So the highest level of this practice that I know of is to let your movement breathe you, let your structure support you in such a way that your movement breathes you well, and move in such a way that you're never taking a breath. It might take a week or two to get there, and it helps to have a teacher for that. Because sometimes you have to make micro corrections on your student, you know, raise the hand just this much and all of a sudden everything connects. And so then when you come out into these movements, it all harmonizes. But there are a few competent teachers out there. And you remember in our breathing practice, there is this pause, right? Exhale, pause, relax to let the air come in. When you are letting your movement breathe you, you use that pause to do the most complicated movements. Because you have the greatest fine motor skill during that pause. And if you don't believe me, try it sometime. The trick is exhale, do the thing, relax. Like a sniper, exactly right. Or an archer. You know, when I was learning to shoot the bow, I learned Turkish style. And so here I am with my bow. I get my thumb on the string. This movement brings the air in, right? I'm pulling back to here. I exhale. At the pause, I release. And my body is stillest at that pause. My fine motor skills are at their highest so I can get the arrow right on target. And sniper does the same thing.
Yeah, and like we talked about last week or the other week, the artists who do miniatures, who utilize that pause to do their tiny detail work.
Yeah. Or somebody who is really good at sumi painting, like Ken. By the way, Cherie, please tell Ken that I am delighted that he is posting so many pictures of his work these days. It's like the thing that I look for every morning. Is what has he done? You know, you cannot do those kind of paintings unless your breath, your structure, and your movement are in harmony. You can't. You'll tear the paper. You'll make a mess. You know, bad things will happen. I know because I've tried and bad things happened. So, yes.
Who haven't we heard from? Ilmar, what's on your mind?
No, just thinking, I wish I'd known that when I was taking drafting in college. I started out being an engineer, and at that point, you still had to ink your drawings.
Oh, yes, I remember those
You
days.
spend all that time doing it, and then you find that ink blobs go down.
Yeah.
Yes, I can only
Because I
imagine.
wasn't holding my breath, but I wasn't pausing at that point, you know.
Yep. Totally makes sense to me.
I guess I got another curiosity that sort of came up as you were talking. I mean, there's also this phenomenon which sort of intrigued me when I was back a youngster still. You know, the trick was, you know, you lay down between two chairs, right? You have your head or shoulder in one chair, your feet in another chair, and you imagine this energy running through you, and it becomes incredibly strong. You know, I remember doing it also with some of my students when I was freshman students, and you know. So and there's no movement involved there, you know. What's going on in that?
What makes you think that there's no movement involved?
Well, at least there was no external physical movement involved. There may have been internal movements. I was, you know, when I was young, I was picturing energy flows, you know. But so in a sense, that was a movement. But it is still, it seems very different from, you know, when I was trying to break boards in karate or something like that, you know, which was definitely.
So one of the things is that as long as you're alive, there is movement. You never stop moving.
Yeah, but that's kind of almost like a cop-out, right? Because
no, it's not. That's the whole secret of it. If you are moving correctly when you're laying between these two chairs, and the movement is in your breath, for the most part, and in the way you relax various parts of your body and allow your tendons to hold you up, then you get it.
Yeah.
So no, it's not a cop-out. It's how it's done.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the point. I mean, there is always movement, but it's the type of movement that's going on.
Yes.
That's the critical issue. Yeah, okay. I have no argument with that at all. Yeah.
And that's actually an important point, is that there is no time when we are not moving. You get to be as still as you can be, and your heart is still beating. Your lungs are still working. Your circulation is still moving through your body. And you can inhibit a lot of the, what they call nervous movement, like the twitching and all of that stuff that people do, tapping their feet, bouncing around. And as still as you sit, your eyes are still going to blink. Unless you're, you know, doing some sort of Scientology course where they train you to stare at each other for a while. But all that does is give you dry eyes and put you in a trance. So if you're awake, your body is moving. If you're asleep, your body is moving. Even if you inhibit all of the nervous movement in your body is still moving. Every time you think, your body moves. You know that, right? Every time you feel something, your body moves.
You mean in the sense of nervous firing and all that? Is that what you're talking about?
All of that, plus in the sense of changes of facial expression.
Okay.
Micro movements.
Yeah, we have micro movements of the body and micro expressions that run across the face. It takes a little practice to see them, but not that much practice before you can start seeing them happen. And if you video somebody at high speed and then slow it down to normal frames, you can see the very quick expressions that move through somebody's face unconsciously. And that's something that we don't seem to have a lot of control over. The only people who don't do that are psychopaths. It's like a good psychopath, if that's not a contradiction in terms, a good psychopath will be able to beat a lie detector, because their structure just, it doesn't respond to any feelings because they aren't really having any.
Presumably that's something can be trained, right? I mean, presumably a good poker player trains themselves to
A good poker player
minimize
can
that.
minimize it, but they can't stop it.
Gotcha. Hmm.
Micro expressions happen, and they happen below the level of consciousness. And, you know, I trained to observe these. A lot of people have. And I also, I have tried to be as relaxed as possible so I don't show many of them. And I can feel my facial muscles twitch. The only way around it is you load your face with Botox. If you do that, it inhibits micro expression because you've paralyzed the muscles in your face. And then people decide that you're a psychopath. The first time I ever saw a woman who was Botoxed, it creeped me out. I thought that she might be a serial killer because there was literally nothing happening here, nothing happening here. And it took me a while to figure out that her muscles had been paralyzed. But it was spooky at first. It's like, what's going on with this person? We're sitting here and we're talking and I'm getting complete flat affect.
I had a real estate agent like that once. It's really freaky.
Yeah. The only thing that tipped me off that there was something else going on was that her pupils would still dilate and contract. And I started checking things with pupil dilation. So, by the way, would you like to know how to have a face that does not require Botox?
Might as well.
Yeah, learn to relax your face. That's all there is to it. Relax your face and you don't need Botox. Those wrinkles that Botox gets rid of are just chronic tension in your face. If you don't have the chronic tension, you don't get the wrinkles. Yes, you still get older, but you don't get all the crow's feet. You don't get this stuff up here. You just learn to relax your face. And you do that through attention and breath, movement, and structure. This is the structure part. If you carry a lot of chronic tension in your body, tension is literally pulling, right? Your muscles are pulling when they don't need to be. If I'm always doing this, a set of muscles is pulling in that direction. Because that's all muscles can do, right? You know that. Muscles contract, nothing else. And you have to learn to release those contractions. If you don't, then your body develops the habit of keeping them contracted. And if that happens, you have to go visit somebody like Cherie and pay her lots and lots of money to fix the problem for you.
Yeah, some of those habits are really hard to shake.
Yep.
I was discovering that when I was doing this Qigong stuff. I mean, one of the things that contracts me were my buttocks. Now, my wife likes it. It really inhibits a lot of the stuff that I was trying to do.
Yeah, but if you carry that contraction with you, you lose huge amounts of ability to generate force. In walking, the most important muscles for walking are the glutes. And they have to be able to contract and release. What moves you forward is not your hamstrings, it's not your quadriceps. It is the contraction of the gluteal muscles if you're walking correctly. And if your muscles are already contracted, you have problems. And this is an interesting one because most people are not in touch with their glutes.
Shri, did you have a thought?
I have a few thoughts.
Good.
I have actually massaged people where I am quite shocked at how flaccid their bottom is, where it's just over the top of the hips and you think, wow, there's no capacity to contract with a solid contraction. Yeah, and that's kind of weird, you know, when you feel that. And I think over, I've been massaging for nearly 25 years and you think, wow, over this period of time, I've seen bodies deteriorating. And we even say it now in the stretch therapy system, is that we're seeing across every age level, from young to really old, the diminishing capacities of people. So, for example, I was at a first aid recertification course, and you have to do CPR for 100 compressions a minute. And there was a lot of people who could not sustain a minute at the level that you're required to get that certification. And I've seen that over the years because we've got to do this every 2 years. And I was thinking about how people couldn't kneel, they couldn't get into the position, they couldn't use their structure to do the push, and they didn't know how to just stay relaxed in the shoulders enough to be able to do it. You've got to be able to do this for 10 minutes because that's what they tell you. It'll take that long before paramedics can get there.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, and it's only 10% of cardiac arrests that will survive a CPR intervention. It's just the way it is. You just got to keep that blood moving, not the breath for them. It's the blood moving so that it doesn't stagnate and everything just stops. And you just think, if we can't do that in a time of crisis, and you've got adrenaline pumping and everything, you know, you're really at a loss, you know. And as a human being, I was trying to think of what as a practice could you do? You're not going to do CPR every day, but as Mushtaq said, in walking, that slow jog thing that the Japanese do, the real slow, just stepping on the spot and feeling all your tendons being able to recoil and sustaining that. Try doing that for 10 minutes, you know. And it's not about running fast, but that capacity to feel your contractile, because fascia is contractile, even tendons, it's a very slow contractile material, but being able to feel and sense that actually helps us with that embodiment awareness. That's the gap. We don't have that sense of engaging and disengaging. What is being used by the body and what's not being used. There's that complete amnesia. So just doing small things like the sustained soft jog on the spot, recoil, like you step and you feel the body press back, step, press back, step, press back. That being able to feel that, that's a lovely little way of starting this practice of getting into the body.
Yeah, you know, that I had not thought about that, but I used to have to do CPR recertification every couple years here. And it was the same thing. There were a lot of people who could not sustain it for 5 minutes.
No.
And it is a lot of work, but you should be able to do that.
And there used to be more people who could do it?
Yeah, but not so much anymore. At least not the last time I did it, which was admittedly 15 years ago. It was the last time I bothered to get recertified. And these were young, healthy people. This wasn't like an old person like me or Ilmar. This was like Somebody like Zainab. Though I would bet money that she could sustain CPR for 5 minutes without any trouble. My money's on you, Zainab.
Okay, so Mushtaq, you know, when I was pushing your buttons by calling it a cop-out, I guess here's what I'm sort of interested in. I mean, it's clear that there's always movement, there's always breath, there's always structure, right? But I guess that the interesting question is, are there any general principles as to how to optimize that triangle?
Yes.
And what would those be?
Those would be learn to breathe correctly, first and foremost. Second, work your movement with your breath. Start out with the simplest level of it, which is exhalation on effort. Learn to do that, learn to coordinate that, and work on your structure. Make sure that video that I put up as a reward for people who subscribe to the channel, take a look at that. It's like 7 minutes long. Do that every day and your structure will get better. That's designed to reset your structure for you. And so you work your structure, you work your breath at the simplest level, and, you know, just keep doing that and you will get improvement. So good structure, exhale on extension, exhale on applying force.
Okay. And the measure of improvement here is what? It feels better, you have more strength, you have more flexibility?
All of the above.
All of the above? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you can test this with, you know, simple weights. See how much you can normally lift. Then work on getting your breath movement and structure really in good alignment and see if you can't lift a bit more. Notice how much easier it is. So if you need to test it, that's how you can test it.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how much easier it is to walk quickly without effort.
Mm-hmm. I imagine that a part of that is just your body being able to, you're able to do with your body more easily the things you intend to do, right? I'm thinking here of Tangle, obviously, you know, that, you know, as that breath, as that structure, as that gets in the, well, I don't know if it's balance, is it balance or in some way appropriately aligned, but I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. I think of it as harmonizing.
Harmonizing, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
This might help a little bit is to put the awareness on the exhale versus inhaling. The inhale will come in naturally.
Yep, that's a very important thing.
If you close your mouth and just keep the tip of the tongue behind your top front teeth so that your face is soft, your jaw's not clamping down, but you're just exhaling everything you're doing, walking, whatever, and it's like exhale, 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 exhale. You catch yourself actually holding your breath, because when you're under a little bit of stress, you tend to take a breath in and hold it to get something done, and you're not exhaling. But if you want to be relaxed with that relaxed face, don't bite on the teeth, but just keep the tip of your tongue behind your top front teeth. Face is soft, mouth is closed, and do all your breathing through your nose to help you slow down, because if you can't recover through your nose, then you may have to just bring your practice down a bit and just get into being able to do that. I find when I'm running out of breath, when I'm running, is because I'm not exhaling enough, and I'm getting into a panic state, like because you're trying to get a shot or whatever if you're playing a game. And I find that helps me just bring my awareness into which breath part am I hitching on. So it's often I'm holding and not fully exhaling. Does that help?
Yes,
That will
makes a lot of
definitely
sense.
help.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I run into something curiously similar. I do a fair amount of sort of emotional work type stuff with the people in a group that I'm with. And there's always a sort of a holding of the breath when someone gets into sort of emotionally charged areas. You know, if you get them to allow them to breathe, that begins to allow the stuff to come up and be processed. You know, whereas holding the breath basically holds it down. You know, so.
I find there was an example of a martial arts thing where a girl, I was trying out a class for the first time, and the girl that was paired off with me was holding up the pads, and I was asked to strike the pads, and I just kept going, and she just kept walking backwards, and she said, "Oh my God, you're a machine." But I wasn't even like stressed in any way. It was just the capacity of exhale, and just kept going. And it's just, once you hook into it, it's not hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
We overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So as an emotional thing, as a practice, getting someone to strike a pillow and using their breath, that might be really helpful.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you remember the first stage to this is exhale on exertion.
Mm-hmm.
Second stage is exhale on extension. Third stage is let your body just be breathed.
And what keeps the body from doing that naturally? What is it that causes
fear,
all of us to?
anger.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Fear breathing is
Mm-hmm. Right.
up here, clavicular breathing, a lot of holding on the inhale. Anger breathing is pressurized. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get past those two emotions. You got to get past the fear, you got to get past the anger, and just get into, Scott calls it performance breathing. Scott Sonnen calls it performance breathing. And that's as good a name for it as any. But I call it proper breathing.
You would, of course.
I would, of course. That's me yanking your chain.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool, makes sense. Yeah.
Good. Well, we're kind of out of time for tonight. And we should, let me pop over here so we can all see everybody. And any last thoughts before we put this thing to bed? Nope.
One more thing, which is just one more category of movement that happens all the time, is if you're sitting or standing, you're constantly rebalancing yourself.
Yes. Yeah, balance is dynamic. Yeah, we are not a stack of bricks. You can't just put, stack us up and expect us to stay there because gravity is pulling us all in the same direction, especially as bipeds. Yeah, we are terribly unstable creatures.
But we can use that to our advantage.
Yes.
Can and would benefit from. So that's basically what we've discussed tonight, is how to take advantage of that.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us yet again for another Sunday Talk. And we'll be back next week. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. And who used to say that?
I do not know.
Come on, Ilmar, you must know.
Actually, I missed what you said. What was the phrase?
If the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise.
Oh, that sounds familiar, but I had no idea.
Tennessee Ernie Ford used to say that.
Oh, okay.
Which You and I, maybe Nancy would remember him, but everybody else, you're all too young.
Yeah.
But it's
Sorry,
all
man.
this great wisdom we've acquired in the process, right?
That's right. Like remembering what Tennessee Ernie Ford says.
Yeah.
All right, guys, take care. We'll see you next week.
Yes.
Bye.